In the heart of the Obsidian Kingdom, a land where volcanic peaks pierced the heavens and rivers of magma snaked through the valleys, reigned Queen Kaida. She was a woman of striking beauty and formidable strength, her heritage a blend of human and dragon blood. From her mother, a noblewoman of the Obsidian court, she inherited her intelligence, compassion, and political acumen. From her father, a legendary dragon of the northern mountains, she inherited her resilience, courage, and a touch of draconic magic. This duality was both a blessing and a curse. It granted her unique powers the ability to transform into a majestic dragon, control the elements, and heal with a touch. But it also isolated her, making her an enigma to her people. The humans saw her as too draconic, the dragons as too human. Even her trusted advisor, the wise Mage Elara, couldn't fully comprehend the inner turmoil that Kaida wrestled with daily. Kaida surveyed her kingdom from her balcony, her eyes reflecting the fiery sunset. A wave of unease washed over her. Lately, the whispers of rebellion had grown louder. The Obsidian Kingdom, once a beacon of prosperity and peace, was now simmering with discontent. Her subjects, particularly the humans, felt neglected and misunderstood, their grievances echoing the ancient prophecies that foretold a time of darkness and division. A sudden gust of wind tousled Kaida's hair, carrying the faint scent of sulfur. She turned, her eyes narrowing as she spotted a dark figure perched on a nearby rooftop. The figure, cloaked in shadow, met her gaze with an eerie calm. Then, with a flick of their wrist, they unleashed a bolt of dark energy, shattering the balcony railing and sending shards of obsidian raining down. Kaida reacted instinctively, her form shifting with a rush of heat and energy. Scales erupted from her skin, her limbs elongated, and wings unfurled from her back. With a powerful beat of her wings, she took to the air, her roar echoing through the city as she pursued her attacker. The chase was a whirlwind of fire and shadow, weaving through the narrow streets and over the volcanic peaks. The cloaked figure, nimble and elusive, led Kaida through a maze of twists and turns, their motives shrouded in mystery. But Kaida was relentless, her draconic instincts guiding her every move. Finally, the chase led them to an abandoned temple, a crumbling relic of a forgotten age. The figure disappeared inside, the shadows swallowing them whole. Kaida hesitated for a moment, a flicker of doubt clouding her eyes. But the weight of responsibility, the duty she bore as queen, pushed her forward. She entered the temple, her senses on high alert. The temple's interior was dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of decay and old magic. As Kaida ventured deeper into the labyrinthine structure, she noticed strange symbols etched into the walls, their meaning eluding her. A feeling of dread crept into her heart, a premonition of impending danger. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced, forming the figure of a hooded man. He turned to face Kaida, his eyes glowing with a sinister light. His voice, when he spoke, was cold and menacing. "Queen Kaida," he hissed, "your reign is coming to an end." Kaida's dragon heart swelled with righteous fury. She had faced many threats in her reign, from power-hungry nobles to monstrous creatures lurking in the Obsidian Kingdom's volcanic depths. But this was different. This was a direct challenge to her rule, a threat not just to her crown, but to the very soul of her kingdom. "Your words are empty threats, Shadow Dweller," Kaida retorted, her voice echoing through the crumbling temple. "Reveal yourself and face the consequences of your actions." The hooded figure chuckled, a chilling sound that sent shivers down Kaida's spine. "As you wish, your majesty," he said, and with a dramatic flourish he cast aside his cloak. The man standing before Kaida was not who she expected. He was young, perhaps even younger than her, with piercing blue eyes and a face that would have been handsome were it not for the twisted smirk that marred his features. But it was his attire that truly caught Kaida's attention. He wore the ceremonial robes of a high priest of the Obsidian Temple, a symbol of reverence and devotion to the ancient dragon gods. "You dare desecrate the symbols of our faith," Kaida roared, her voice laced with indignation. "You are a traitor to your people, a disgrace to your ancestors." The man's smirk widened. "Traitor? Disgrace? Those are strong words, your majesty," he sneered. "But I assure you my actions are motivated by a deep love for my people, a love that you, a half-breed abomination, could never understand." Kaida's anger flared, but she quickly regained her composure. She knew that losing her temper would only play into the hands of this manipulative priest. She had to remain calm, think strategically, and find a way to diffuse this situation without resorting to violence. You speak of love, yet your actions reek of hatred and ambition, Kaida countered, her voice steady and resolute. What is it you truly desire, priest? What twisted vision drives you to such treachery? The priest stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with a fanatical light. I desire a kingdom united under the pure blood of dragons, he proclaimed. A kingdom free from the taint of humanity, a kingdom where the ancient prophecies are fulfilled, and the dragon gods reign supreme. Kaida's heart sank. This was not just a power grab. This was a crusade fueled by a twisted interpretation of ancient law and a deep-seated prejudice against humans. She knew then that this conflict would not be easily resolved. It would require more than just strength and magic. It would require wisdom, diplomacy, and the courage to challenge deeply ingrained beliefs. The priest raised his hand, a swirling vortex of dark energy forming in his palm. Your reign ends here, Kaida, he declared. The age of the dragon has begun. Kaida braced herself, her dragon instincts urging her to fight, to unleash her full power. But a small voice in her head, the voice of her human mother, whispered a different strategy. A strategy that involved not just claws and fire, but words and wit. It was a gamble, a risky one, but it was the only chance she had to save her kingdom from descending into chaos. Wait, Kaida said, her voice cutting through the tension like a shard of ice. Before you unleash your wrath, priest, answer me this. What makes a true leader? Is it the purity of their blood or the strength of their character? The priest faltered, the dark energy in his hand flickering uncertainly. Kaida's question, unexpected and piercing, had struck a chord within him. He had always believed in the superiority of pure dragon blood, in the inherent right of dragons to rule. But Kaida's words challenged that belief, forcing him to confront the hypocrisy of his own actions. Strength of character, he scoffed, but his voice lacked its previous conviction. What does that matter when the fate of our kingdom hangs in the balance? When the prophecies speak of a dragon savior, not a half-breed pretender? Kaida seized the opportunity, her voice ringing with newfound confidence. The prophecies speak of a leader who unites the kingdom, not divides it, she retorted. A leader who embraces both their human and dragon heritage, not one who rejects one in favor of the other. She took a step forward, her eyes locking with the priest's. Look at yourself, priest, she challenged. You preach unity, yet you sow discord. You preach love, yet you spew hatred. Is this the strength of character you claim to possess? The priest's gaze wavered, his resolve crumbling under the weight of Kaida's words. The dark energy in his hand dissipated, his shoulders slumping in defeat. For a moment, a flicker of doubt crossed his face, a hint of shame in his eyes. But then his expression hardened, the fanaticism returning with a vengeance. You may have won this battle, Kaida, he snarled, but the war is far from over. The prophecies will be fulfilled, one way or another. And when that day comes, your bloodline will be extinguished. With a final glare, the priest turned and fled, disappearing into the shadows of the temple. Kaida watched him go, a mixture of relief and unease washing over her. She had averted immediate disaster, but she knew that the priest's words were not empty threats. He was a dangerous zealot, and his twisted vision posed a grave threat to her kingdom. Kaida took a deep breath, steeling herself for the challenges ahead. She had to find a way to quell the unrest among her people, to bridge the divide between humans and dragons, and to expose the priest's treachery before it was too late. But first, she had to return to her castle and assess the damage. Transforming back into her human form, Kaida exited the temple, the cool night air a welcome relief after the stifling atmosphere inside. As she walked through the city streets, she noticed the fear and confusion in the eyes of her subjects. The attack on the castle, the rumors of rebellion, had shaken their faith in her leadership. Kaida knew she had to act quickly to restore their confidence. She summoned her advisors, including Ilara, and shared with them what had transpired in the temple. Ilara, wise and pragmatic as always, listened intently, her brow furrowed in concern. "This is grave news, your majesty," she said, her voice heavy with worry. The priest's words will spread like wildfire, further fueling the unrest among the people. We must act decisively to counter his propaganda and expose his true intentions. Kaida nodded in agreement. I have already begun formulating a plan, she said, her eyes gleaming with determination. But it will require the cooperation of both humans and dragons, a united front against this common enemy. Ilara smiled, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Then let us begin, Your Majesty, she said. The fate of our kingdom depends on it. With renewed purpose, Kaida and her advisors set about their task. They sent envoys to the neighboring kingdoms, seeking their support and alliance. They dispatched scouts to gather information on the priest's movements and his growing following, and they reached out to the leaders of the human communities, offering them a voice in the governance of the kingdom and a chance to prove their loyalty. Kaida's efforts were met with mixed reactions. Some, like the noble Lord Varus, a staunch supporter of the crown, pledged their unwavering allegiance. Others, like the fiery Lady Anya, leader of the human faction, remained skeptical, their trust in Kaida shaken by the priest's venomous words. But Kaida persevered, her determination fueled by her love for her kingdom and her belief in its people. She knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges and setbacks, but she was ready to face them head-on. For she was not just a queen, she was a dragon, and dragons never back down from a fight. Weeks turned into months, and the Obsidian Kingdom teetered on the brink of civil war. The priest, now calling himself Draken, had established a stronghold in the Dragon's Maw, a volcanic caldera rumored to be a gateway to the dragon god's realm. From there, he rallied his followers, preaching his twisted gospel of dragon supremacy and inciting hatred against Kaida and her mixed heritage. Kaida, meanwhile, struggled to maintain order. The human population, emboldened by Draken's promises, grew increasingly restless. Protests erupted in the city streets, demanding equal representation and an end to what they perceived as dragon tyranny. Kaida tried to appease them, offering concessions and promises of reform, but her efforts were met with suspicion and distrust. Even among the dragons, there was growing unease. Many, especially the older generation, were swayed by Draken's rhetoric, questioning Kaida's legitimacy and her ability to fulfill the ancient prophecies. The kingdom was a powder keg, ready to explode at the slightest spark. Kaida knew she couldn't maintain this delicate balance for much longer. She needed a decisive victory, a symbol of her strength and resolve that would rally her supporters and silence her detractors. And so she devised a daring plan, a gamble that could either unite her kingdom or tear it apart. She would challenge Draken to a duel, a trial by combat to determine the rightful ruler of the Obsidian Kingdom. The duel would take place in the Dragon's Maw, a fitting arena for a clash between two beings of dragon blood. Kaida's advisors were aghast. Your Majesty, this is madness, Ilara exclaimed. Draken is a powerful sorcerer, and the Dragon's Maw is his domain. You'll be walking into a trap. Kaida raised a hand, silencing her advisor. I know the risks, Ilara, she said, her voice calm but resolute. But this is the only way to end this conflict without bloodshed. If I win, Draken's followers will lose their figurehead, and the rebellion will crumble. If I lose... She paused, a shadow of doubt crossing her face. Then at least my people will know that I fought for them, that I did not abandon them in their hour of need. Ilara, seeing the determination in Kaida's eyes, knew that there was no dissuading her. She bowed her head in acceptance. Then may the dragon gods be with you, Your Majesty, she said. Kaida smiled, a fierce light in her eyes. They will be, she said, her voice filled with confidence, because I am their daughter. With that, Kaida set out for the Dragon's Maw, accompanied by a small group of her most loyal warriors. The journey was treacherous, the volcanic landscape a labyrinth of lava flows and poisonous fumes. But Kaida, in her dragon form, soared through the air, her scales shimmering in the fiery light. When they reached the caldera, a vast bowl of molten rock and billowing smoke, they found Draken waiting for them, his followers arrayed behind him. He stood atop a rocky outcrop, his robes billowing in the wind, a staff of obsidian in his hand. So the half-breed queen has finally arrived, he sneered, his voice amplified by the acoustics of the caldera. Have you come to surrender or to meet your doom? Kaida landed on the caldera floor, her dragon form shrinking back into her human shape. She met Draken's gaze with unwavering defiance. "I have come to claim what is rightfully mine," she declared, "the throne of the Obsidian Kingdom." Draken laughed a cold, mocking sound. "You are delusional, Kaida," he said. "You are not fit to rule, not with your tainted blood. This kingdom belongs to the dragons, not to human-dragon hybrids." Kaida drew her sword, the blade gleaming in the volcanic light. "We shall see about that," she said, her voice a low growl. "Let the duel begin." And with that, the two figures charged towards each other, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. The battle for the Obsidian Kingdom had begun. The duel was a spectacle of raw power and calculated strategy. Kaida, with her hybrid agility and dragon-enhanced strength, matched Draken's dark magic blow for blow. Their weapons clashed in a whirlwind of steel and obsidian, sparks flying as they danced across the caldera floor. Draken, fueled by his fanaticism, fought with a reckless abandon, unleashing powerful spells that scorched the earth and shook the very foundations of the volcano. Kaida, however, remained calm and focused, her movements fluid and precise. She parried his attacks with ease, her dragon instincts guiding her every move. The duel raged on for hours, the sun setting and the moon rising as the two combatants pushed each other to their limits. Kaida, though weary, refused to yield. She knew that the fate of her kingdom hung in the balance, and she would not falter. Finally, seeing that he could not defeat Kaida in a direct confrontation, Draken resorted to trickery. He feigned exhaustion, stumbling back and dropping his staff. Kaida, sensing victory, lowered her guard, a fatal mistake. In a flash, Draken lunged forward, not with his staff, but with a concealed dagger. The blade pierced Kaida's side, drawing a gasp of pain from her lips. Draken, his eyes gleaming with triumph, raised his arm for the killing blow. But Kaida was not defeated yet. With a surge of adrenaline, she grabbed Draken's wrist, her dragon claws digging into his flesh. She twisted his arm, forcing him to drop the dagger. Then, with a powerful kick, she sent him sprawling across the caldera floor. Draken, stunned and disoriented, scrambled to his feet, but Kaida was already upon him. She pinned him to the ground, her sword at his throat. "Yield, Draken," she growled, her voice a menacing rumble. "Your rebellion is over." Draken, his face contorted with rage and humiliation, spat at her feet. "Never," he hissed. "I will not yield to a half-breed abomination." Kaida hesitated, her grip on the sword tightening. She could end this now, silence Draken forever. But something held her back, a lingering shred of compassion, a reminder of her human heritage. "Then you leave me no choice," she said, her voice heavy with regret. She raised her sword, preparing to deliver the final blow. But before she could strike, a voice echoed through the caldera, a voice filled with authority and power. "Stop." Kaida froze, her eyes widening in surprise. A figure emerged from the smoke and shadows, a figure that made her heart leap with both joy and trepidation. It was her father, the legendary Dragon King, his scales gleaming in the moonlight, his eyes burning with an intensity that could melt stone. Kaida's father, King Theron, descended from the sky, his immense wings casting long shadows across the caldera floor. His presence was a force of nature, radiating an aura of power that made even the bravest warriors tremble. He landed beside Kaida, his eyes scanning the scene. He saw Draken, sprawled on the ground, defeated but defiant. He saw Kaida, her sword raised, her face etched with conflict. And he saw the assembled crowd, their eyes wide with awe and fear. "What is the meaning of this, Kaida?" Theron boomed, his voice echoing through the caldera. "Why is my daughter engaged in a duel to the death with a priest?" Kaida lowered her sword, her heart pounding in her chest. She had not seen her father in years, not since he had retreated to the mountains to commune with the dragon gods. His unexpected arrival filled her with a mix of emotions, relief, apprehension, and a longing for his approval. "Father," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "this man, Draken, has been spreading lies and sowing discord among our people. He seeks to overthrow me and establish a tyrannical rule based on dragon supremacy. I challenged him to a duel to end this conflict peacefully." Theron turned his gaze towards Draken, his eyes narrowing in disapproval. "Is this true, priest?" he demanded. Draken, though intimidated by Theron's presence, refused to back down. "It is true," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "But my actions are justified. Kaida is not fit to rule. She is a half-breed, a stain on our lineage." Theron's eyes flashed with anger, a low growl rumbling in his throat. "Silence!" he roared, his voice shaking the very earth beneath their feet. "You dare insult my daughter, the rightful heir to the obsidian throne?" He stepped towards Draken, his massive form towering over the fallen priest. "You have forgotten your place, priest," he said, his voice dripping with venom. "You have forgotten that dragons are not just creatures of power, but also of wisdom and justice. And you have forgotten that Kaida, despite her mixed heritage, possesses the strength, courage, and compassion to be a great queen." He turned to Kaida, his eyes softening with pride. "My daughter," he said, his voice now gentle and loving, "you have proven yourself worthy. You have faced a formidable enemy and emerged victorious. You have shown the strength of a dragon and the wisdom of a human. You are truly the Dragon Queen." Kaida's heart swelled with emotion, tears welling up in her eyes. Her father's words, his approval, meant more to her than anything else in the world. Theron turned back to the crowd, his voice booming across the caldera. "People of the Obsidian Kingdom," he declared, "I stand before you today to reaffirm my daughter's claim to the throne. She is the rightful ruler, chosen by the dragon gods themselves. Any who oppose her will face my wrath." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices echoing through the volcanic landscape. Kaida, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, raised her arms in triumph. Draken, however, remained defiant. He struggled to his feet, his eyes burning with hatred. "This is not over, Kaida," he snarled. "The prophecies will be fulfilled, even if it means my own destruction." He raised his staff, channeling the last of his dark energy into a final, desperate attack. But before he could unleash it, Theron intervened. With a flick of his wrist, he sent a bolt of lightning towards Draken, disarming him and rendering him unconscious. "Enough," Theron thundered. "Your time is over, priest. Your rebellion is crushed." He turned to his guards, who had arrived during the commotion. "Take him away," he ordered. "Let him face the justice of the dragon gods." The guards obeyed, dragging the unconscious Draken away. Theron then turned to Kaida, his eyes filled with pride and love. "You have done well, my daughter," he said, his voice soft and warm. "You have saved our kingdom from the brink of destruction. You are truly the Dragon Queen." Kaida smiled, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She had faced many challenges, overcome many obstacles. But with her father's support and the love of her people, she knew that she could face anything the future held. The Dragon Queen's gambit had paid off. In the aftermath of the duel, a wave of relief and jubilation swept through the Obsidian Kingdom. Draken's rebellion was quelled, his followers scattered and demoralized. The threat of civil war had been averted, and Kaida's authority as queen was firmly established. Kaida, however, was not one to rest on her laurels. She knew that the kingdom's wounds ran deep, the scars of division and distrust not easily healed. She had won the battle, but the war for unity was far from over. With her father's blessing and the support of her loyal advisors, Kaida embarked on a series of reforms aimed at bridging the gap between humans and dragons. She established a council of representatives composed of both humans and dragons to advise her on matters of governance. She implemented policies promoting cultural exchange and understanding, encouraging humans and dragons to learn from each other's strengths and weaknesses. She also initiated a program of infrastructure development, focusing on improving the living conditions in the human settlements and providing them with access to the same resources and opportunities as the dragons. She believed that by addressing the root causes of discontent, she could foster a sense of shared purpose and loyalty among all her subjects. Kaida's efforts were met with cautious optimism. The humans, though still wary, were encouraged by her willingness to listen to their grievances and address their concerns. The dragons, though some still harbored doubts, were impressed by her leadership and her unwavering commitment to the kingdom's well-being. Even Elara, Kaida's most trusted advisor, was surprised by the queen's transformation. The once hesitant and uncertain ruler had blossomed into a confident and decisive leader, her dual heritage now seen as a source of strength rather than a weakness. "You have exceeded all my expectations, Your Majesty," Ilara said one evening as they sat by the fireplace in Kaida's chambers. "You have shown a wisdom and a compassion that I never thought possible." Kaida smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes. "I have much to thank you for, Ilara," she said. "You have been my guiding light, my voice of reason in times of doubt." Ilara reached out and took Kaida's hand, her eyes filled with warmth and affection. "You are a true queen, Kaida," she said, "a queen who leads with her heart as well as her head. The Obsidian Kingdom is fortunate to have you." Kaida squeezed Ilara's hand, a feeling of gratitude washing over her. She knew that her journey was far from over, that many challenges still lay ahead. But with the support of her loved ones and the unwavering belief in her own abilities, she was ready to face them head-on. The Dragon Queen's gambit had not only saved her kingdom from destruction, but it had also forged a new path, a path towards unity, prosperity, and a future where humans and dragons could coexist in harmony. As months turned into years, Kaida's reign ushered in an era of unprecedented prosperity and harmony. The Obsidian Kingdom thrived, its cities bustling with trade, its fields overflowing with crops, and its people united in their loyalty to their Dragon Queen. Kaida's Council of Representatives proved to be a resounding success, fostering open communication and cooperation between humans and dragons. The cultural exchange programs flourished, breaking down stereotypes and fostering mutual respect. The infrastructure projects transformed the human settlements, providing them with clean water, sanitation, and access to education and healthcare. But Kaida's greatest achievement was not the material prosperity of her kingdom, but the spiritual transformation of its people. The old prejudices and suspicions gradually faded away, replaced by a sense of shared identity and purpose. Humans and dragons, once divided by fear and mistrust, now worked together, their strengths complementing each other, their differences celebrated. Kaida, in turn, grew into her role as queen, her wisdom and compassion deepening with each passing year. She became a symbol of unity and hope, not just for her own kingdom, but for the entire region. Other rulers sought her counsel, her reputation as a wise and just leader spreading far and wide. One day, as Kaida surveyed her kingdom from the balcony of her newly rebuilt castle, a sense of peace and fulfillment washed over her. She had overcome many challenges, faced many trials, but she had emerged stronger and wiser. She had fulfilled her destiny, not as a conqueror or a tyrant, but as a unifier, a healer, a leader who brought her people together. As she gazed at the horizon, a majestic dragon soared through the sky, its scales shimmering in the sunlight. Kaida smiled, recognizing the familiar silhouette. It was her father, Theron, returning from his solitary sojourn in the mountains. Kaida spread her own wings, her human form transforming into that of a magnificent dragon. She took to the air, joining her father in a graceful aerial dance, their roars echoing through the valleys. As they flew side by side, Kaida felt a deep sense of connection, not just to her father, but to the land itself, to the very essence of the Obsidian Kingdom. She realized that her true power lay not in her dragon blood or her human heritage, but in the harmony of both, in the balance of fire and ice, of strength and compassion. The Dragon Queen's gambit had been more than just a political maneuver. It had been a journey of self-discovery, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a woman who dared to embrace her duality and lead her people towards a brighter future. And as Kaida soared through the sky, her heart filled with joy and gratitude, she knew that her reign would be remembered not as the age of the dragon, nor the age of the human, but as the age of unity, an age where the Obsidian Kingdom truly shone as a beacon of hope and harmony in a world often marred by conflict and division.